It's the Ugly American Werewolf in London Rock Podcast with your hosts, the Wolf and Action Jackson, who are keeping rock alive by talking classic rock, hard rock, progressive rock, heavy metal, 80s music, early MTV, UK vs. US chart success, and much more. This is the home of classic album and live concert reviews and your place for interviews with artists and legends. You're rocking with the Wolf. Yeah, there, rock and rollers. Welcome to episode number 289 of the Ugly American Werewolf in London Rock Podcast. Brought to you by me, your host, Mac B. the Wolf, and I will be joined, as I always am, by my partner in crime from the East Coast of the USA, Mr. Gary Action Jackson. And we've been having a blast here on the show lately. We hope you've been listening. We've done some classic albums, turning 40, like Cinderella's Night Songs and Genesis' Invisible Touch. We are buddy Tim Derling on from Tim's Vinyl Confessions, talking about the first time he saw Van Halen on First Concert Memories. We had our buddy Neil Poole from the Def Leppard Pod, talking about slang as it turns 30. Reviewing the Iron Maiden movie, Burning Ambition, and getting ready for some big concerts and fun stuff for the summer. It's going to be a great one. And we're glad you're here with us today, because we're going to go back 45 years to a very important album in our musical development. And actually, we're kind of going back 43 years as well. Let me explain. In August of 1981, MTV appeared in America. Maybe not all of us had it right away, but there was buzz about it. Everyone was talking about this new channel where you could see your favorite musical acts do some kind of acting or performance around a song. It caught on really quickly, and one of the big reasons it caught on was a little English outfit from Birmingham named Duran Duran. Now, they aren't the hard rock, heavy metal that we talk about most of the time on the show. No, this is the new wave, right? A little bit of punk, a little bit of prog, a little bit of Bowie, some fashion, maybe a little bit of disco or dance rhythms, R&B. And you got the phenomenon that really swept across the Atlantic from the UK over to the US and back. And one of the biggest winners of this time was Duran Duran. Simon LeBon, Andy Taylor, Roger Taylor, John Taylor, no relation, and Nick Rhodes. They were young, good-looking Englishmen with funky beats, fresh styles, some crazy haircuts, but importantly, had videos, and videos in exotic places like Antigua that really made them stars of the fledgling MTV. In June of 1981, they released their self-titled solo album, Duran Duran. And it had hits on it, like Girls on Film and Planet Earth, that did pretty well overseas in the UK, not so much in America, but were catching on around the world. They hit it big, did big tours, they had a big album, Rio, in 1982. And then ahead of the release of Seven Ragged Tiger in late 1983, they decided to re-release the first album in the US. This time with the new single that was coming out and was all over MTV, Is There Something I Should Know? They really just flip-flopped the places of Girls on Film and Planet Earth. And the song To the Shore, which was on the UK release, was not on the original US release anyway. So they just added Is There Something I Should Know to the back end of the first side of the album or tape. And this is where we come in, folks, because they played that video on MTV on repeat. Of all their videos, it's the one I've seen the most, at least live on MTV in the 80s. And yes, I had the cassette, and I still have the cassette. So while we're going to celebrate an album coming out 45 years ago, we're actually going to tell you about the version that came out 43 years ago. But before that, we do have a little bit of business to take care of. We love to mention we are proud members of the Pantheon Podcast Media Network, a family of over 100 different shows. You can learn more at pantheonpodcast.com or follow on socials at Pantheon Pods. And you know we're going to give a shout out to our intergalactic sponsor, rarevinyl.com, who, like Duran Duran, is based in the UK, folks, but they ship all over the world and they procure records from all over the world. And you better believe they have a lot of amazing Duran Duran stuff. Whether you want first editions in mint condition, imports from Japan, singles, picture discs, box sets, posters, magazines, whatever you're looking for, you can find it at rarevinyl.com. And the beautiful part is they gave us a code UGLY, UGLY, that you can use at checkout and you can save 10% off one entire order. Not just one item, but one entire order. So go buy the whole Duran Duran catalog, buy all the LPs, the box sets, the stuff that you always wanted but couldn't find, and use Ugly to save a big fat 10%. So visit rarevinyl.com, use the code Ugly, save 10%. Your record collection will thank you. Now back to Duran Duran. I know some people consider them a boy band of the early 80s, but they came together organically at the Rum Runner in Birmingham. They play their own instruments. They write their own songs. They're an original band that took pieces of other genres that they loved to make something all their own. I gotta tell you, John Taylor, for a white boy, plays his bass pretty funky. They set these great grooves that when I was a kid, I didn't know what was going on. All I know is that was good music. I dug that, and they look cool in Antigua in their fancy suits and cool haircuts. Kind of set the basis for my pop knowledge, and it was all kind of built from there. Jackson's pretty much the same way. So let's get to it. We're talking Duran Duran's debut album from 1981 and the re-release in 1983 with Is There Something I Should Know? Here on The Wolf. Let's just get to the part where Duran Duran is one of the biggest bands of all time. And in that early 1980s MTV, I could argue they were the biggest band from 1981 to 84.
I would have a hard time talking you out of that because they were everywhere.
Yep.
And they just kept going. When I look at the timeline, it's like once they started, they didn't stop that whole. I mean, they just kept bing, 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 bing. They headlined Live Aid in '85. I know that there were a lot of other bands there, and I know that Queen was the big deal that people were excited about. But I remember myself thinking, Duran, that's the big one.
That's the big one. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And they hadn't been together for a bit at that point by mid-1985, right?
Right.
They'd done View to a Kill and you know, that was kind of a big deal, but they were already like shooting off into Arcadia in their two like separate camps.
Right.
We didn't know that really, but we were just excited.
You kind of figured at that time, well, you know, that was kind of a little side thing, and then they get back together again. Not so much.
Well,
not for a while.
They were so busy. They blew up as big as you could blow up, as fast as you could blow up, in large part thanks to MTV. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking at this. I mean, like the first album comes out in June of 81. The second album, Rio, comes out in May of 82. Mm-hmm. Now, Seven and the Ragged Tiger doesn't come till later 83. However, in April of 83, they re-release the first album in America, this time with Is There Something I Should Know on there. Right. It was kind of a standalone single. But since the first album hadn't done great in America, they decided to re-release the first album with a slightly different cover and Axe to the Shore and put Is There Something I Should Know in there, which went immediately to number one in Great Britain. Like it debuted at number one. That's how big Duran Duran were then, especially coming off Rio with all those videos in Antigua and all that stuff. They're like, they couldn't be any bigger. They're in high demand everywhere. So I personally got the tape, the 1983 reissue of this original album with a different cover, right? So the original cover had just kind of a red Duran, some lines behind it, and then Duran. And then below it, there's a picture of them, which is not that great.
Very of the time.
Yeah, and I'm sure it was 1981, but you've got Simon up front. It looks like he's leaning on a car that we can't fully see. Off his right shoulder is Andy with blonde spiky hair, which didn't last long, I don't think. Then next to him, behind him, Nick Rhodes with the dark kind of floofy hair. Mm-hmm. Kind of looks like Saya, only with like all dark hair. And then you got the two good-looking ones, Roger and John Taylor. They're in the very back. You can kind of barely see them, okay? Then the new one in 83 had the big double D with, you know, Duran Duran with the second D kind of slightly italicized there, and then the second Duran is kind of the same way. And then the picture of them is it's a much more up-to-date picture. Of course, Simon's in the middle. He's very tan. Nick's got his what was patented kind of red hair at the time.
And his, all the makeup on and everything.
Right. And then all the Taylors are kind of there. You know, they're all kind of side by side. In my opinion, it's a much better picture. But they were a couple years older and way more popular at that point, had much better style.
I was going to say that's probably the biggest thing for me is it looks like yeah, time has gone by. I'm older, maybe not, but just definitely more styled.
Yeah,
It's the last time you're going to see Andy Taylor's eyes for a while.
true. True, but it was better than that blonde stuff he had on at first.
Well,
That was
it's weird because you look at that original cover and you think, oh, well, that's Nick with the blonde. Oh, it's not. Wait a minute. What's going on here? This is not the look I'm used to. And the clothes are kind of like, okay.
Well, they weren't there yet, right? They just
Right.
weren't quite there yet. By the time you get to 1983, oh, they were there, you know.
Yes. Now, I can imagine in 1983, when Is There Something I Should Know comes out, a lot of people are bent out of shape that they get to Rio and it's not on there. What do you mean? This is the album they have out now. Why is this not on this? Oh, no, it's on the 1981. It's on the re-release of the first record. Oh, well, that's disappointing.
Right? I know. It's weird. But for me,
Yes.
it was kind of perfect because, you know, when they came out in 1981, I was about to be 8 years old. And MTV would come out in August, but we wouldn't get it right away. I feel like it would take into 1982 before we would have MTV at our house. And so it probably wasn't 83 until I was really full on into Duran Duran. But because Rio had been so popular, and then in the spring of 83, they re-released the first album, including Is There Something I Should Know? That by the time Seven and the Ragged Tiger came out in late 83, the first two albums were still very much on the charts. Like they hadn't really gone away. You know how you kind of have that ramp up and then you come back down, and then your next album comes out, ramps up, and it comes back down. And then a year and a half later, you have another one out. So people kind of miss you, and then you come back. But thanks to MTV and thanks to the way we released all these things, Duran Duran never went away. And you could kind of see there's a little fatigue on them. By the time they start doing the Seven and the Ragged videos, you can tell, okay, they're starting to wear down a little bit. I mean, even though it's only been 2.5, 3 years, not even, you can see that was a very busy 2.5, 3 years for them. No wonder they had to take a break after that.
Well, and there was probably also some other things going on there too. You know, you get some money in your pockets, you've got everybody wanting to be around you, and I'm sure substances show up that are exciting at the time, but they take the toll on you. I think there was some point in time where they had sequestered themselves in a house somewhere, chateau
in France,
in France, and they were alluding to the fact that maybe some of the members of the bands were keeping Central American countries in business because of their intake of certain
things.
Yes, items. So yeah, I mean that will take a toll on you. But the thing that always stands out to me is there's a clip of them showing up to some records, Tower Records or something in California, and this mob of people just running at the car, and they're in the car and they're like, "Oh, hey, you know, this is great. We're so popular." But, you know, kind of reflecting on it later, like, what if they'd have gotten into this car? What if they'd have broken the wheel? Like, are they going to rip us apart? Like, there's that amount of fame will crush you after a while. And so, yeah, you could say by 85, you could tell they needed a break.
But we're going to do their first album here when they're still pretty fresh-faced and trying to make a name for themselves, coming out of the Rum Runner, which is a bar. It's a scene that they're a big part of. And I mean, I think Nick was the DJ and like Roger was the bartender or something like that. Like, you know, they kind of started to make their way into this place before they got the whole band together and before they started getting all their songs together. And in that documentary, Nick was like, so I met Simon and thought, you know, Simon LeBon was a made-up name, right? I thought it was a stage name. Turns out it really was his real name. And then John said something interesting because, like, turns out Simon had all these, like, books of poetry, some of which he could turn into lyrics. And he's like, no matter what you hear about beats and rhythms and stuff like that, words on a page is kind of what it's all about. If you can take, you know, your thoughts, put them into words, things that rhyme and make sense, that's a bigger battle than creating the music in a lot of ways. And it's really what turns songs into big hits. And so I'm like, okay, yeah, that's a good perspective to look at. I mean, if you think about it legally, when you write a song, what do you copyright? It's 50% melody and 50% lyrics. And everything else is just arrangement. So yeah, those words on the page are pretty important. Unless, of course, it's Tel Aviv and it's an instrumental. But
Right. Interesting that, you say 50% music, 50% words. They're all getting a fifth of this. Everybody joins in on the writing credits,
that's right.
which I think helps keep the peace and also probably makes it easier when they're writing songs where it's like, okay, if there isn't one person who comes in with like, this is the song,
Right.
maybe somebody has an idea and then you build around it. It's just easier that way. But when you do the math on John Taylor, that's pretty impressive because he was born in 1960. He didn't pick up an instrument until he was 16, which would be 1976.
Right.
By 1981, he's got a professional album out. That dude had a pretty big learning curve on how to. He didn't even start playing the bass until a couple years after that.
Yeah, I mean, and if you ask me, he's the
Yes.
lead instrument on this album.
Yes.
I mean, on every song, I always thought it was the keyboard. It's Nick Rhodes' keys because, yeah, they are setting the textures and usually the overall tone or the overall melody. But if you sit there and listen to it, that bass is funky and it's plodding away in like every single song. And unlike most of the songs that we listen to, there is no guitar solo in any of these songs.
No.
I mean, in fact, the guitar is like the least upfront it is like on any album that we'll ever review, basically. Sometimes you have to really listen and try to pick out the guitar, but you don't have to worry about that on the bass. And so, yeah, I mean, he's kind of the leader musically because he's out there out front and it's funky. It's really good. I mean, look, they came out of the time of punk, but they also kind of like proggy stuff and ultravox kind of stuff, Roxy music. Of course, they love Bowie and obviously John Taylor like Chic. So you kind of take all that kind of disco plus punk plus a little funk and R&B, you kind of put it all together and they're trying to make something new. New wave, synth pop, dance, and punk. You put it all together in one mix, and that's kind of what Duran Duran were. Now, I didn't realize that at the time. All I knew is like, ooh, this is really good music. It sounds really good. It's got a great beat to it. In fact, I think that if you listen closely, a lot of times, especially on something like Girls on Film or Planet Earth, it's got that Steve Harris gallop. It's got that 2/16 and an eighth. It's not heavy metal. It's dance music,
Yeah.
And I don't know why, but it struck me, and maybe it was part of their image too, but I'm like, these guys are amazing. This is the greatest band in the world. Like they're going to be my favorite band forever when I was 9 or whatever, Didn't work out that way, but...
Well, I mean, they had too many, for us, they had too many things working against them. They were when we got a little bit older, they were super popular. Everybody knew them. They were really good looking dudes. And so it was like, yeah, these guys aren't hard enough. They're not tough. They don't make, hard rock music. But then, time goes by, you kind of come back and you say, no, these guys were, for what they were doing, they were the best. They understood how to put the song together. They understood that the videos were going to be the way that they really got the exposure out to the world.
Yeah.
And they kept going. It wasn't like, they had that one record where it was like, well, they kind of fell off after that. With that run that you were talked about before, they were on top of everything, and it wouldn't stop.
Yeah, that's the problem, obviously. You're being torn to go, now you got to go on tour. Now you got to do an interview. Now you got to travel over here. Now you got to record this. Now you got to, run all over the place.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, there's girls everywhere. And the first song, Girls on Film, might have been a negative take on the modeling industry. It wasn't a negative take on models. They all married models, except for, I think, Nick Rhodes, who married like an American heiress of some kind. I can't remember exactly who she was. I mean, I don't know if any of them are married to any of those first wives anymore. But yeah, they all married models. And then they all remarried models. So, I mean, that's just kind of...
One of the greatest quotes ever. When Simon LeBon was asked, why do rock stars marry models? Because they can.
Because they can.
Right.
Because
they are literally throwing themselves at you every day, all the time. Please get away from me. I have to go to sleep for at least 20 minutes tonight.
And look, it was successful, but I gotta believe some of these numbers are low. 1 million sales in the U.S. platinum, 300,000 in the United Kingdom, and 2 million in Canada. Or I'm sorry, 200,000 double platinum.
I'm glad you brought that up because that seemed way low to me also. I'm like, this has got to be like a, what, maybe not this first one, but the second one had to be what, like 10 million something?
Right.
No. Like this should, yeah, that seems way low. Like this should be like at least a 5 or 6 million in the United States, I would think.
And especially Rio, you think, oh God, that must get 5-10
Yeah,
million. No,
correct.
not at all. So I mean, maybe it was because they were up against so much competition at the time with everything coming off of MTV. Maybe it's because they hit them back to back to back in such quick succession. Maybe that had something to do with it. I don't know. But this one went to number 3 in the UK, number 10 in the US, and 24 on the rock albums, but it went top 10 and 5 in other places. But yeah, I mean, if you'd have asked me, I'd have told you, oh yeah, that must have sold 3 to 5 million, and the
Easily.
Rio has got to
Yeah.
probably be diamond, and it's not even close.
Yeah.
Bizarre. Now, this was produced by Colin Thurston, who also did Rio, and he was kind of a go-to around this time. He had worked with David Bowie, and I'm sure that's why Duran Duran really wanted him. But he also worked with the Human League. He worked with Iggy Pop. So that's exactly who they wanted. John Taylor said he described Thurston as a major catalyst for the 80s sound. But Thurston did not produce Is There Something I Should Know? That was Ian Little. So yeah, 2 years later, they've already got another producer on for their new hit single, which I guess needed to come out between. I guess somebody told him, hey, you can't wait 18 months between Rio and 7. You got to put something out in between. It's like, okay, well, this one's ready to go. We can just do a single. Okay, put out the single. Oh, but in America, we'll put it on the first album again, or get rid of To the Shore and do it that way. I don't know if it was brilliant or idiotic, but I mean, I still have the cassette, the US 1983 release cassette. So
It worked on someone.
yeah, and they're still going to this day. I mean,
That's the part that's cool is they never, if you go back, yeah, there was a little bit of a, downtime. They never really went away. I know they had some lineup changes. I forgot that John Taylor left for a little while in the late 90s before they got back together. But yeah, they never went away, and they're still playing all over the place, and they're only missing one of the original members because I don't think anybody can get along with him.
well, I think he's had health issues and,
But I think before that,
well,
yeah.
But the thing is,
Right.
last month, as we're recording this, Free to Love is their new single that just
Yeah.
kind of came out.
Correct.
They did it with Nile Rodgers. So, I mean, that's the thing. They grew up wanting to be like Chic. And, eventually they got Tony Thompson in the power station. And now, basically, Nile Rodgers is in their band. I mean, he's been their producer forever, but now he's their guitar player.
That's my thing. Can we just drop that? It's Duran Duran and now he's in the band, please. He's been there since what? Since Seven and the Ragged Tiger when he remixed or redid the Reflex.
Yeah.
I mean, that's been it for the rest of the time.
Yeah, when I saw him in British Summertime at Hyde Park, what was that, 2022?
Yeah.
Simon even said, like, on stage, can we just go ahead and make it official that Nile Rodgers is a member of
There you
Duran
go.
Duran now,
Yeah.
and he's a little older than them. He looks cooler than they do, but he fits in with them musically somehow. And I don't know, I think it has a lot to do with John's funky bass. It's like,
Yeah.
for a white boy, I could actually work with these guys.
Right.
They're not too bad. He's pretty funky for a white boy, Yeah, I mean, image was certainly a huge part of it, but listen to the music. I mean, it's so much better and it's different than anything else that was going on at the time. I mean, think about who else was big at that time. Men at Work, The Police, stuff that we would listen to back then. This is very different from all of that. And
Correct.
yeah, I mean, because the girls are like, I love you, and their posters are everywhere, the guys start to move away from that. Like, yeah, they're not that cool. In fact, I had an Arena poster in my room, and I remember having like some buddies come over, and a couple of them were just like slapping their faces, like, "They suck, you suck, I hate you." I'm like, what are you doing in my Duran Duran poster? They suck, don't you know that? I'm like, no, I don't know that. They're like band of my generation. But some people didn't appreciate them. That's okay. You can't please everybody. The thing is, we've got to kind of talk about the videos for these songs just because that's how you remember them. And they were kind of groundbreaking at the time.
Yeah.
And they were on all the time. I mean, pre-Rio, once they got to Rio and they did all that stuff in Antigua and other places, like, oh, that's amazing. Obviously, they had some kind of budget for that. It was less so on this one. But, like Night Boat, they didn't make until Antigua. And Is There Something I Should Know? They didn't make until 83. So they kind of have a few years of videos within this one album.
Hi, this is Gary Kemp. And this is Guy Pratt. And you're listening to The Ugly American Werewolf in London podcast.
So let's start it.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember in my mind, even when like Rio and Save a Prayer were on MTV, they still were showing Girls on Film. They were
Yep.
still showing all,
Planet Earth, yeah.
yeah, it's like this album really never went away. It was just like a continuation.
Yeah, I mean, because you get to May of '82, and it's awesome that all those great Duran Duran and Antigua videos come out, but they still didn't have that much material to show.
Right. Well,
You
yeah,
know?
that's true too. Yeah.
They still didn't have that much, and these guys are hot, right? So,
Right.
and I mean hot like they're on fire. Their careers, not like they're sexy. Just take it easy. But I mean, I guess they were, but not for me. Anyway,
Well, but okay, but I think they kind of were though, because you watch this, especially when you get into the Rio days, like these dudes sold a lifestyle to you, and as a young kid, I remember thinking, man, that's awesome. All these guys do is hang out. They hang around with super hot chicks. That was the thing, is there were always attractive women in these videos.
that's right.
And, oh, I just wanted to be like, man, the party never stops. They're from England, so they're cool. They go all around the world. They wear like I didn't have any of those clothes because I wasn't an adult, nor was I rich. But like on they were talking about on the Rio video where they're on that boat. It's like they ruined like $1,000 suits,
Right. Because, yeah.
but that was super high fashion. But I just remember thinking, man, these guys are where it's at. Well, I'd like to be like that someday because that's cool.
Yeah, I know. And like you see John Taylor, he's a skinny white guy.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I'm a skinny white guy. He's got cool clothes and a haircut. All I need is cool clothes and a haircut.
Right.
And I'm in. And suddenly
Correct.
I'm Duran Duran,
Right.
So never really worked out that way.
You can dream though, can't you?
Yeah. I did a lot of that, that's for sure.
Right.
So here's what I'm proposing.
Okay.
Because the original release, the first side was different than the 1983 release that kind of made it big in America. On the original, it goes Girls on Film, Planet Earth, Anyone Out There, To the Shore, and Careless Memories. Okay. They ditched To the Shore on the American version. So it goes Girls on Film, Planet Earth. Instead of Anyone Out There, they changed it to Is There Anyone Out There?
All right.
They moved Careless Memories up from 5 to 4. And then the fifth song on the first side is There's Something I Should Know.
I think we should go with that version.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
And some people are like, that doesn't make sense. This one came out before. And I'm like, well, then you get your own fucking show and you do it the way that
And
you
shut
want
up.
to,
Right.
Even Nightboat was, in parentheses, waiting for the, and then Nightboat on the US version, where it was just Nightboat on the original UK version. But we're going to do that. We're going to do the 1983 American version because that's what I know back to front. I wore the tape out. Actually, I really only wore, it's funny, the first side of the tape out. Because it's got Girls on Film, Planet Earth, Is There Anyone Out There? It ends with Is There Something I Should Know? Which is kind of why I bought the tape in the first place. Then instead of listening to the second side, I would just rewind the first side.
And go again.
And go again. Yes, absolute. So we start with the sexy Girls on Film. And there were a couple different versions of this video. And while, it's a little bit of a send up and you're seeing different people like walk on the runway and walk up on the stage and things like that, there was part of it that you could see on Showtime. It's like they released a video album. And yeah, a lot of it was the Rio stuff, but they had a racier version of Girls on Film where there's actually a little bit of nudity and there was pretty sexual and stuff like that.
Okay. I don't know exactly which one you're talking about because I went and saw the whole video of Godly and Cream. How you thought you were going to get that on American TV is mind bending.
Well,
because there's so much stuff in there that like I look at it now and I'm like, oh my God, how did you even it is overtly sexual.
oh yeah.
And it's just wowie, wow.
Especially in like 1981, it's like, oh my
Correct.
God.
Yeah.
Now, I first saw it on Showtime when they showed all of them.
Okay.
Okay, you can see it on Showtime. I was actually kind of shocked. I'm like, oh my God, they have naked women on this?
Yeah.
You can't show that. You can't on the right channel.
Right. And if you're at the right time of day. But yeah, I mean there are a couple there's a one scene where they're like grinding on this big, like it looks like a straw, but it's got stuck like a shaving cream on it and they're all, oh my God, what is happening here? this is phenomenal.
Yeah, and
But
they
again,
played
in
it on the
81
Playboy channel. They
Well,
just
of course,
couldn't put
yes.
it on MTV. You know?
Right. Well, I mean, they could, but they heavily redacted one where it's like, okay, I see. Even this was, I think, racy at the time. But if you saw the whole thing, Tipper Gore, you would have your head would have come off.
What I didn't realize is this is a song they had written and demoed before LeBon even entered the band. They had a guy named Andy Wickett who was kind of their original lead singer rather, and they kind of demoed it when they were basically at the Rum Runner. And they had a B-side on this one, Faster Than Light, because this was, I believe, the second single off the album. Yeah, and Planet Earth was their first single ever, and we'll get to that in just a second. But so they released Girls on Film. Girls on Film actually is their third single back with Faster Than Light. Yes, third single, July 13th, 1981. It went to number 5 in the UK. Yeah, it's critical of the modeling industry, but not of models. And no guitar solo, just kind of a bridge and a couple of riffs against a bunch of synths. And of course, which is tradition in Europe, there are a lot of remixes of this one. There's lots of different, I mean, for a lot of these songs, there's lots of different remixes. But this will always be a huge one. They still keep doing this to this day.
I think, yeah. I mean, this is one of their signatures. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
The whole thing where it starts off with the camera. You know exactly what it is. Everybody flips out.
Oh, the beginning.
It's got
Choop. Yeah, it's absolutely.
And then you get that little riff, bam, 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 beep, beep, beep. But that bass is just pumping in there.
It's unbelievable. Yeah.
Bumping up and up, bump, 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 bumping up. And it's when he breaks it down, it's actually it's kind of simple, but it works so well for this. And he's got like, the A and the B. Man, is this cool.
Yeah, I know. They're off and running here, They're like, wow, these guys are really good. The next song is Planet Earth. This is the first single. It came out in February of 81. So this is kind of like, we've got a few good songs. Let's put one out there to see if people like it. And it did. But maybe they couldn't get, the whole record contract until they knew for sure that like this was going to be a bit of a hit. And it was backed with Late Bar, which is basically all about the Rum Runner. It wasn't just recorded and played in the Rum Runner. It was written about it too. It was backed with To the Shore in the US, but it was Late Bar in the UK. 12 in the UK it went to, and 26 on the Disco Top 100 in the US. But it went to number 8 in Australia, which means its first worldwide top 10 was Planet Earth. This is serious driving bass on this. It's easily the lead instrument on here, man. So he should be in charge of Duran Duran in the studio, honestly. I mean, it's based off whatever he wants to do, it seems to me.
And when he was when we had COVID as a thing, he did this it was called Stone Love Bass Odyssey, where he basically was just sitting in his living room telling you how they wrote these songs. And it is really cool to think about, okay, so we had the drum beat, and then we're gonna put the bass in. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like that kind of, they build everything off of the bass beat.
And I've seen so much written about how solid Roger Taylor is as a drummer. It's like, everyone talk about how funky and good John Taylor is. Everyone was talking about the shapes and all the textures that Nick Rhodes puts out there with his many synthesizers. And of course, the charisma of LeBon. But having that backbeat, that solid foundation from Roger Taylor, that allows you to do all that other stuff.
Right, correct.
Yeah. So, and in this Planet Earth, they say New Romantic looking for the TV sound because there was an article in Sounds about Spandau Ballet, their buddies, talking about how it's the New Romantics or this thing. So it's kind of a send up of what the New Romantics really are, and it's also kind of an homage to it too. I feel like it's both. But his vocals aren't just straight ahead and easy rhyming couplets. He kind of like, he stretches it out and then he starts singing the next one.
Yeah.
Before
it's like wraps around.
Yeah, it kind of before he's really done with this part of the song, he kind of sings the next lines, and then he fills those in a minute after some bass thing. So you kind of have to pay attention to what he's doing. But I saw a note in there that John Taylor wanted to be a little bit like "Do You Think I'm Sexy" by Rod Stewart, and then you start listening like, Oh, yeah, that's kind of exactly like Do You Think I'm Sexy, really.
There's no sign of life, voices, another sound. Can you hear me now? This is planet Earth. You're looking at planet Earth. Ba, 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 ba. This is planet Earth.
Although it's weird because you listen to "Do You Think I'm Sexy" and that's disco, right?
Yep.
This is something else. It came out of disco, but this is like the next. You're taking it to somewhere new.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, the thing about LeBon's lyrics are, I know the songs are usually about something,
Yeah.
but they're very kind of veiled and almost nonsensical.
Yeah.
So they're not straight ahead, so they kind of give you a little more room to interpret things also.
Well, that's true, yeah. And some people wondered if this was like about aliens because, there's no sign of life, you're looking at planet Earth, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think it was really about if you came to Earth as an adult, it's like you were born, but you were born with a conscious and with, a grown up attitude. Like, how would you look at Earth if you just kind of were born an adult and understood it like all at once? That kind of thing. They kind of shot it down. It's like, no, it's got nothing to do with aliens. Because some people are like, well, it's about aliens, just like Alan Parsons kind of things. Like, it's got nothing to do with Alan Parsons. It's got nothing to do with aliens, you morons. But this is their first video, right?
Okay.
So that's a big deal because the videos made them and they helped make MTV.
Right. I can imagine though, you talk about like our parents watching MTV thinking, what is this? This isn't, people are just clowns dancing around on this deal. This isn't music. Yeah, it is.
Well, I feel like they were worried that it was too sexy in some areas. And
oh, absolutely.
There's a good reason for that. It's like they don't want you just watching MTV all day. You can listen to the radio while you're doing something else, but you're not allowed to watch MTV all day.
Correct.
You'll see stuff that 9-year-olds aren't really necessarily supposed to see. Eventually they would cool on that a little bit, I feel like, but still it was like, oh, it was evil. And then there's the kids who weren't allowed to watch MTV. Like their parents were just like, no, never watch
Right.
that devil channel. So
Yeah.
then they want to come to your house like, oh, you want to go outside and play ball? You want to, build something you want to do. You got MTV? Let's watch MTV. Do your parents care? Yeah, let's just watch MTV. And then they watch MTV for 2 hours. I'm like, well, don't you want to go do something? No, man, let's just watch MTV. Oh, okay, I guess. But yeah, that was a big one for them, and it's one that they kind of still do. Maybe not every single time, but they still do to this day. And there's a bit of a bass solo on that one, in the bridge. So again, JT is leading the way. Now, to me, we're getting into not quite as popular stuff, but stuff that's really brilliant. And is there anyone out there? Okay, how do you feel about this tune? Third song on the album.
Well, this is where it gets tough on albums like this because you've got songs that were so huge, and then you've got like more of the album cuts. So I could see how like maybe, especially in the tape days, you would go through this. But if you listen, yeah, there's more stuff going on here than you give it credit for.
I gotta say, I love this song.
Yeah,
I think it's
fantastic. The more I listen to it, because you're like, oh, let's get to the big ones. No, come on, hold on a minute. What is it about this that you love?
Well, it's the chorus. It's when he goes, "Is there anyone out there? Anyone else outside?" So they go kind of low on that one, but when they come for the second one, outside, it gets up really high. I can't even hit that note, but I don't know exactly what all the lyrics are about, but it's funky. It's good. That lyric is awesome in that they change it. They kind of go low and they go high the next time. But, my face in the mirror shows a break in time. A crack in the ocean does not align. I tried to sleep last night, but I've caught you dreaming about days we used to wander away. I don't know exactly what all that's about.
But there's nothing wrong with that. Like
Yeah.
it leaves it open to interpretation. Like, I've got a note here like lost love, maybe. I don't know. It could be. But that's
waiting
kind of the
to
cool
answer the
part.
phone, but they don't answer it. So
Right.
then
Yeah.
are they out cheating on you? Are you just sitting there? Is it a one-way street, kind of thing? And again, bass solo in the middle 8. There's no big guitar solo. It's just, I don't even know if it's a bass solo. It's boom, boom, plucking away there. But
it kind of sounds like he's doing some harmonics there. Close to the end, that sounds kind of cool. And then as he goes, you get to the end, he's a little more aggressive on the plucking.
yeah.
It kind of picks up a little bit. Yeah, I mean, again, he's the front and center here. I wonder, because I know this would start to be a problem after a while, because the guitar work is very off to the side. It's very
compared to most stuff we listen to. It's
right in the mix.
Have to find it.
And he came from more of a rock background, right?
And he did.
Yeah. So it's like, okay, we're gonna, we're gonna play like some Zeppelin stuff. But no, we're gonna need you to just kind of fill in the spaces a little bit.
That's right. Just
no, I want to
textures
be
here and there.
I want to be a gunslinger. Well, yeah, no. But the ride starts, and you're like, well, maybe I'm okay with this if we're selling this many records and being this popular.
Yeah, and that's kind of the way it worked
they
out.
they did a reunion tour with all of them.
Yep.
And I remember thinking to myself, after the third song, he had a white Les Paul Custom, the wine, and then a black one. And I just thought, that's like $20,000 in guitars in the first 3 songs. So it's just like
And
that.
you don't play a solo. I mean,
Right, exactly. But he always had that kind of that energy in there that, I don't know, maybe you thought you were being wasted. I don't know. He's also not a bad singer, Andy Taylor. So I wonder,
but
too,
he
if
also
it's
got
like,
burnt out on that tour too, because they came back in a big way. Suddenly they were very much in demand.
Right.
And he hadn't been on that big stage in a long time. And I think while JT and Simon were like, yeah, we got to do this and that, he was just kind of like, what time's the gig tomorrow? He was kind of.
Wait, are you talking about the reunion tour?
Yeah.
Oh, well, then it was like, 2000 what now? But
3
I
or
think
4. Yeah.
I can still party like it's 1986. Like, no, dude, you got to go to sleep because we got another big show tomorrow, and stop it.
Yeah. So I honestly, for not being a big hit, I think this is very good Duran Duran.
Yeah.
I think it's the epitome of what they do with all the bass, with Simon's vocals. Honestly, this is the one I listen to over and over again.
Okay.
For this, once I started doing the research for this, I'm like, I miss this song. This is actually pretty damn good.
But how cool is that when when was the last time you thought about anyone out there from Duran Duran?
Nope, never.
And then you listen to it and you're like, hey, wait a minute. I love this song. I remember this one. This is great.
Yep, absolutely true.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, it was just anyone out there in the UK. They had in parentheses, is there? And then anyone out there on the US version, just so you know. Next up, Careless Memories.
Yes.
The second single, released April 20th, 1981. It was backed with Canada, Khanada.
All right.
And then the 12-inch featured a cover of Fame by David Bowie.
Mm-hmm.
And I put, it's kind of, derivative can be a nasty word sometimes, but it's kind of derivative of Bowie and Kraftwerk. You kind of tell that Kraftwerk was something of a...
Well, okay, but yes, and you say that, but like, especially at this point in time, they're just starting out.
Yeah.
Is it more like, I love this. This is the sound in my head. I want to make something that sounds like that because I think it's so cool.
I mean, yeah, no, I didn't mean derivative as a pejorative term. I just thought, that's what it's like.
Yeah, definitely born of that.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
And the video was shot in Soho by Perry Haynes.
All right.
Not Russell Mulcahy, who did a lot of their videos. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's got a strong beat underneath with all this new age and punk stuff on top of it. Did it go to 5 in the UK? I don't know if I don't know what that note means. Sorry. I just gotta, I made a note and it doesn't make sense. So
did you write it down? Yes. You don't know what it means? No.
I typed it, in fact. So
before I feel how much my eyes have darkened, fear hangs the plane of gun smoke, drifting in our room. So easy to disturb with a thought, with a whisper, with a careless memory, with a careless memory.
no, it was 37 in the UK, reached 60 in Australia, where they'd already been pretty big. The B-side, Canada, is a romantic song that radiates post-punk energy with reggae-based currents. Okay.
Okay.
And it was inspired by a new romantic clothing designer the band knew named Jane Kahn. So that's Kahn, Canada, maybe that's kind of where that came from.
Very clever. Thank you, boys.
Yeah. I don't know what fifth means. Oh, I'm sorry. It's the fifth song on the original album. Sorry. It's the fourth on this. It's the fifth song on. That's what it means, you dumb fuck. Okay. Now that makes sense.
We got it now.
Careless Memories. It didn't do great as a single. And honestly, for me, I'm waiting to get to the next song. 100%. Yeah, I like the first three. And then I get to this one. It's not that it's bad. It's just like there's something else behind it that I can't wait.
Yeah.
Honestly. So let's go ahead and skip along because we go straight to Is There Something I Should Know? It was released in March 13th, 83 in the UK, but May 83 in the US. Backed with Faith in This Color in the UK and Careless Memories in the US. This went to number one in the UK. Their first number one. Like I said, it went straight to number one. It wasn't on the chart one week. It was number one the next week. It went to 4 on Billboard. So that's a pretty big hit in the US. 3 on Mainstream Rock, 7 on Cashbox, which means it sold pretty well, and then 34 on Dance Club Songs. So it's hitting everything. And it's all over MTV once an hour, every hour. So they couldn't be any bigger, really, in America from this song. And we got to talk about the video because, honestly, I'm pretty sure through 1984, it was the video I saw the most on MTV. More than Rio, more than anything else. They played this over and over and over and over. And I feel like maybe I was sick for a few days when this was really popular and stayed home, and then both my parents worked. So then I could just sit there. And if I watched 5 hours of MTV, I bet I saw it 5 times. So, and was this Russell Mulcahy? This is one of his?
I think this was, yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of black and white. And but then there's like a red ball bouncing around. And then.
Yeah. They're all wearing the same outfit.
But it's kind of like dark blue, but with like white ties or whatever.
Yeah.
And they start with, please, please tell me now. And it's right away, you're like, I know exactly what this is. I know exactly what we're doing.
Don't bore us. Get to the chorus.
Yeah.
Right off the bat.
And it sold more than 1 million copies in the US, just the single, because some people already had the original album. Some people just wanted the single instead of rebuying the thing. So yeah, platinum there. As of October 2021, it was the 11th most streamed Duran Duran song in the UK. It is a little different than other songs. I mean, look, it's got a different producer and it's basically made 2 years later. So it's not going to be exactly like everything else on the first album because it wasn't made during that time.
Every minute of the day, yeah. I see the signs and the looks and the pictures they give you game away, yeah. There's a dream that strings the road with broken glass for us to hold. And I've got so far before I have to say, please, please.
Synths are right up front, and that's kind of what led it. But listen underneath. JT is doing all this funky bass stuff underneath on this thing. And then when they go to the middle 8, once again, there's no guitar solo. There's kind of like a wailing harmonica kind of thing in the background. Yeah. Bump, 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 boom, please. And then they go back to please, please tell me now. What did you think about the video back in the day?
Oh, it was fantastic. It was everything that you ever wanted. It was all the boys there. They had a cool outfit. It was the same, so they looked like a band.
Yep.
Like it looked like this was our uniform. The part where they get into the chorus, he changes the bass part. That goes to the B, and it's just nasty.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And you got that little like riff at the beginning, and then he sings, over that. Just made a break, I'll run out yesterday. Like he's mirroring that riff. But then, yeah, especially when it got so far, bum 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 bum. It's fantastic.
It is.
And because the chorus starts it off, like exactly what it is. Even though it was on all the time, I never got tired of it. It was just fantastic. And then kind of at the end, they play that on the keyboards. It's a fantastic song.
Well, no, and so Rhodes, for the pulsing keyboard, it's from a Roland Jupiter 8. But
Okay.
that Prophet 5 was used for the melodic part. Dun, 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 dun. So he's going back and forth between those two. I always thought he was the MVP of Duran Duran until I kind of got older. So I
Right.
realized, well, yeah, he's one of them. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
He's responsible for a lot of their sound, but you listen to what JT's doing down there. It's super cool. Of course, once again, they had a monster mix. They had an alternative mix. They had a single mix. They had a music video mix. There's like 15 different versions of it. But so in the video at the end, they're kind of doing, please, please tell me now. And then Simon's singing something a little different. And they're all going, please, please tell me now. So they're kind of zooming in on each one of the members of the band doing, please, please tell me now. I always thought that at some point, Roger, he's kind of like, he may be the last one to go. It's like he's embarrassed to be there. He's like, please. And then he kind of turns his head to the side. I was like, I can't believe I'm doing this shit right now. And it turns out in the comments here, they said, when asked if there's anything about their videos they would like to change, Roger commented, the only part of the video I would change is the end of There's Something I Should Know, where I'm singing to the camera. I look very uncomfortable doing this and cringe every time I see it to this day. And it's just, for me, that was just a memorable part of the video because they're all like mugging the camera. Please, please tell me. And then he's like, can I get out of here? Can I go back behind my drums now, please? Which is funny to me.
Well, it just shows you that like there are some people that are more comfortable out there mugging for the camera, and some people that are more comfortable back, doing the work in the basement. And he's definitely that kind of person. He just seems like just a genuinely good dude. And I always thought that he kind of got the shaft because I guess when they started to go their separate ways with Arcadia and Power Station, he was kind of in between. Like he didn't want the band to break up. He did work on both records. He was trying to keep everybody together. And so, yeah, kind of another unsung hero in this deal.
Now, here's a fun fact that I had no idea about. So in the UK, it's backed with the instrumental Faith in This Color. There is an alternative slow mix that was used on the 7-inch. And some of the pressings include brief, unauthorized sound samples from Star Wars.
Uh-oh.
Now, of course, as soon as somebody realized that, they were withdrawn, right? But on the alternative slow mix from the singles box set, the scene which Obi-Wan goes to leave to disable the tractor beam on the Death Star, you can clearly hear some of that in the last minute, which of course you can't use that. Are you crazy? Yeah. Just a little extra fun.
We've got something
you.
came in the mail today. There's a cease and desist letter from 20th Century Fox. Uh-oh.
Yeah, that's not good.
Right.
But it was actually Phil Manzanera, who of course had been with Roxy Music. So because they were such big Roxy fans, once they get big, you get to meet some of your heroes like Bowie and like, whomever else. And he's the one who recommended Ian Little to them to do that song. So little tidbit for you there. But that's the first side. Yes, it's a little different from the original version, and it's the one that I had and listened to very, very much.
I wonder if you could have even gotten that back then. If you had gone,
Import,
it would have to have been a special place. Yeah. No, I want the original version. Why would you? If it didn't include, is there something I should know? I don't want it.
At the time, that would have been my attitude, but
Correct.
But that's because I was a kid. I probably would have loved to have had the
original.
Yeah, I mean, once I had the US version, I probably would have. Yeah. So To the Shore is a little bit slower, right? It's not a bad song. It probably would have fit on the album, but would you take it over Is There Something I Should Know?
I would not.
No way.
No.
Not in 100 million years. So, like, not a bad song, could have fit on, and it did fit on the original album, but.
Leave it dying at the door. Say I know you've time to leave. Open out your arms and breathe.
Sorry, guys, it's not nearly as good as There's Something I Should Know.
This is Mel Gannon from Simple Minds. You listen to the Ugly American Werewolf in London. You stay cool and see you soon.
All right, so then we flip it over, and depending on which country you're in, it's either Night Boat, or if you're in the U.S., it's Waiting for the, in parentheses, then Night Boat. Now, this is interesting, because they did make a video for this, but they didn't make it until they did the Rio sessions down in Antigua.
Okay.
Right. And then it's got these zombies in it. They're basically zombies who are chasing Roger around, and it's kind of eerie. It's kind of got that kind of dark feel to it.
Mm-hmm.
And, in some ways they're asking, hey, Simon, you all right? Simon, you there? Hey, Simon. And he's kind of just muttering to himself in some parts, like, uh-oh, he's being overtaken by one of these things. And then when the night goes down, you see a bunch of zombies chasing Roger around. And, and I think it was written when he was like working late and had to take the night bus. But
yeah,
because Simon wrote it, I think. I mean, I know it's said written by everybody, but I think Simon wrote it. And he changed it to night boat because that sounded more alluring than the night bus. Like, cool things might happen on the night bus, on the night boat. The night bus is kind of like, a bunch of
tweakers.
People just, trying to get up and go to work or get home after a long night or whatever. But it's an interesting one versus, kind of everything else on here.
It's interesting that the vocals don't even come in until about 2:16.
Yeah, it's after 2 minutes.
Is this a instrumental or what are we doing here? Whereas the rest of them, it was just right into it. The mood at the beginning, it sounds like kind of sounds like one of those sci-fi movies you would have seen about that time.
Uh-huh.
In the 24th century, mankind is on the edge. I'm like, okay.
Well,
it's definitely interesting, and it's darker too. Like
Definitely.
you kind of feel like, I'm glad that he changed that because, like, you're right. Like, where's this boat coming from? Are we going to a different country?
Right.
What's happening?
Are we crossing the River Styx?
Yeah,
like, what's
right,
going
yeah.
on here?
The night bus would have been like, oh, ugh, I don't want to be on the night bus.
Although I've been on the night bus. In fact, I think I took the night bus home from the Duran Duran show in Hyde Park, or maybe that was the Stone show. So I went with my daughter, did not go with the She-Wolf.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we eventually jumped on a bus because it's only like 2.5 miles away or something like that. We could have walked it, but it's late. It's dark.
Yeah.
Might as well jump. And the cab is a nightmare. And so if you just walk far enough, eventually you'll get a bus. And it basically took us home. But you can see they're in Antigua for this one.
Mm-hmm.
And Nick Rhodes said it's a very strange arrangement. Like, it's kind of difficult to play. It's not the easiest thing to play. And then when they made like the Dance Macabre album a few years ago, they re-recorded this one because they figure it fits into the darker themes that we're going for on a Dance Macabre kind of an album. But it had zombies in it before Jeopardy by Greg Kihn, before White Wedding by Billy Idol, and a year before Thriller came out. It had these zombies in it. Now, they're not quite scary zombies like Thriller. They're more just like models with stuff wrapped around them and some stuff on their face. But then they get on the boat, and the boat has like these torn sails, and the zombies in these kind of ethereal robes kind of walking around it with, Simon singing his thing, waiting for the night boat. It's an interesting one. It's not my favorite, but it's kind of cool that they made a video for it, even if it was like a year afterwards. And it's just a little different versus all the kind of upbeat, happy dance music,
Silent streaming for a distant sound. The river yellows, rising for a breath of freedom drowned. Stillness overcoming in the night. Listen to rising water moan. I'm waiting for the night boat. I'm waiting.
Yeah, absolutely. It is nice to hear the deeper album cuts that aren't maybe designed to be singles.
Yeah, always.
Which is cool.
Yeah.
I just can't get over the fact that like there was a little vignette on The Simpsons about Night Boat.
Was there?
Yeah, not about this song, but I mean, it's
Okay.
like it was Night Boat. It was a send off of Knight Rider, of course. And here
Oh, gotcha. Yeah,
they're
okay.
chasing the people, and they get on the land, and they're like, "Oh no, wait, we'll just take the canal." And they're like, "There's always a canal, or an inlet, or
Yes.
a fjord."
Somewhere to get away.
Correct.
All right, moving on. You go to Sound of Thunder, which was basically a song about the man who starts World War III.
Oh, way to go, jerk.
So, and obviously we've talked about this before. That was still very much a thing in the early 80s and mid 80s. I mean, there's still like, especially in Europe, they're all kind of got this nervous, like, oh, shoot, between the U.S. and Russia, someone's going to nuke us. This is bad, and
And to be stuck in between, that had to really kind of stink. Because, I mean, the UK has always been a leader in the world.
That's right.
Politics.
Hundreds of years.
Right, but not like the US and Russia at that point in time. They were kind of sandwiched in between. And you're right, you're waiting. Like, is one of these maniacs going to do something? Like, they won't. There's no way. But will they?
But could
I don't know.
It only takes one press button.
Correct.
And then, you know, all these other things happen,
Yeah.
Not a lot to the lyrics. I've been in this grass here for the last 10 hours. My clothes are dirty, but my mouth isn't dry. How does it happen? Does it fly through the air? Well, I gave up asking days away. And then here I am on a dotted line. Cut the corners, take me to your door. I'm the man who stepped off the path, and I just lie here. It's what I was made for. Not straightforward, but again, that's okay.
Yeah.
So the start is kind of similar to the start of Girls on Film, not with the flicking camera, but the kind of the beats, the rhythm, it's pretty similar. It's of the same vein.
Yeah.
And so Nick Rhodes is kind of over the top here, but then JT is slapping away, doing his thing. And the middle eight this time has keyboard texture versus maybe bass out front. So because of that similarity to Girls on Film, I mean, it fits really well in the album. I feel like it's a little bit of a weak song, and especially at the end when it just kind of repeats kind of over and over again.
That's a note I have. It kind of drones on at the end.
Waiting for the sound of thunder.
Still waiting. Okay, cool. Yeah.
Minute and a half later, still waiting. Okay, yeah, I'm waiting too. Not a bad song, and it fits, but it's just versus some of this other stuff on here, which I think is brilliant.
Yeah, that's the problem.
I can skip it.
Correct.
I gave up asking days away, and now I'm lying here waiting for the sound of thunder, waiting for the sound of thunder.
And then next up is Friends of Mine. Now, this is the longest song. It's almost 6 minutes. And because there's 5 songs on the first side and 4 on the second, you figure the songs on the second side might be a little longer on average. Mm-hmm. It's like a 39, 40-minute album, so that makes sense. To me, this is very craft work at first. Okay. Very much reminds me of them. And, LeBon is kind of reading from Romeo and Juliet in some of this.
All right.
And there's social commentary on it, and it touches on an armed robber named George Davis, who I guess became a cause the celebrity kind of thing. Like, he's an innocent man. You put him up for armed robbery. You gave him 20 years and he's innocent. So all these people got behind him. And, Roger Daltrey came up and wore a shirt that said, George Davis is innocent. So it's like eventually he got off because they weren't convinced his conviction was correct. But then like a year later, he got busted for armed robbery again. He went back to jail. Then he got out. And then in the 80s, he got busted again, so it's maybe he didn't do that one that he got caught for, but he's a bank robber and he needs to be in jail.
You are a repeat offender.
Yeah. But this one, again, this isn't one that really stands out to me, except it could be good social commentary in that it's like friends of mine. They said they were friends of mine, said they were passing time, more like the waste of time. Close the door. I said close the door. I told you twice before. What are you waiting for? And then when it gets into Georgie Davis is coming out. No more heroes. We twist and shout.
I said close the door. I've told you twice before. What are you waiting for? Georgie Davis is coming out. No more heroes, we twist and shout. Oh no, not me, I'm not too late, and I know that I'm not taking.
Rocky Picture has lost his gun, which has got to be about like the Rocky Picture show. And
it has to be. Yeah.
Leave him out now. He's having fun. I'm not too late. I know that I'm not waiting anymore. Silly lies don't have to advertise when you realize I'm sick of your alibis. So again, kind of cool words and all, but do they make
to me
sense?
What's interesting about this song is that it starts off like it kind of drawn, but friends of mine, they said they were friends. Okay, so I get where we're going with this, but then he changes up when he gets into Georgie Davis is coming home. Like it it really changes kind of the feel of the song. Like, okay, what is this, downbeat or is it upbeat? What are we doing here?
Yeah.
And who is this guy? I didn't know who he was at the beginning when I was listening to this. Like, I thought, is this some kind of hero when he's talking about that? And I guess depending on the time,
He's a working class hero to some. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
right. And then I don't know what Rocky Picture was about. He lost his gun. Okay, I just assumed it was from the Rocky Horror Picture.
Right.
But yeah, that's what I thought on this one. It's a little bit disjointed with the two parts of it.
Well, that's what I said. It's not great. It's actually perfect for the second to last song because that's where we find you put your worst songs usually on the album. Because Tel Aviv is an instrumental. That winds up the album. Now, Tel Aviv, from what I understand, I've never been, but it's a very sexy place. Like, it's near where people want to destroy them. And so from what I understand is because you kind of live on the brink of death all the time, people party and screw like there's no tomorrow. Like, Tel Aviv is just a party capital. Everyone's out there soaking up all they can out of life because it could just, if the world's going to end, it's probably going to end right there in Tel Aviv first. Now, the thing is, it's got a little bit of, and so I assume that's why they called it Tel Aviv. I don't know if they went there or not, but they're young men who want to go out and party. That's probably a party place that they'd like to get to at some point.
I would imagine. And it just leads to the kind of the sexy world traveler vibe on this deal.
Exactly.
It's not, they didn't call it Birmingham.
No.
Just so you know.
And it's got a little bit of a Middle Eastern thing in there. You kind of hear some of those tinges there. It's not too heavy. It's a little spacey with some synthed out strings in it. Simon does a little, I think he's doing some O's in the background, maybe underneath.
Yeah.
So he is contributing. He's not really singing. There's no real lyrics, but he is kind of doing his bit there.
This definitely sounds movie score-ish when it gets into the string part.
I agree. Yeah, you're right about that, you know. And then, so they've got those 9 songs, plus they've got To the Shore, plus they've got the Canada and the late bar and the techno instrumental Faith in This Color. So, and having B-sides is kind of a big part of culture, especially in the UK. It's like, you've got to have these cool B-sides. And when you're a young band coming up, you've got to play those B-sides. You only have so much material. If you're playing the Rum Runner, you've got to play Late Bar. You've got to play all these because you only know so much. And maybe you do Fame because people know it and you love Bowie so much. So, early on, a lot of these things like Late Bar were very much a part of their sets. And early Duran Duran fans and people who went and saw them at the Rum Runner, remember those things. But, I mean, overall, what's your score on this kind of original album, which isn't necessarily original thanks to Is There Something I Should Know, but what's your take on it?
I think for a debut record from guys who hadn't been doing this that long, I mean, they were pretty young, all of them, about the same age. It's pretty good. I know if you've got the reviews there from the usual suspects, they're going to say, well, it sucks because it's derivative or it doesn't sound that different. I don't see how you could say that. I mean, especially the opening track, they're doing something different on this. This is a pretty good record from guys who would very soon take over the world.
Absolutely, man. It's kind of punk, but it's kind of new wave, but it's got a little bit of
funk in there,
disco.
There,
yeah. It's got dance, disco for sure, maybe even touches of prog, even though that's kind of what punk and disco were getting rid of. There's still pieces of it in there. So yeah, to me, it's something very new. And then it's packaged in a way that the ladies are going to enjoy it. For a first album, I think this is fantastic. To be honest with you, not every song's a winner, and no, I don't sit around listening to this, but it started something that was huge. And when they had a chance to okay, let's take out a weak song and To the Shore and replace it with something that would be a number 1 in the UK and huge in America, why wouldn't you? It just makes sense. But if you think about it from the standpoint of, first album comes out June of 81, second one May of 82, re-released the first one April of 83, and then 7 in the Ragged comes out late 83, and then They put Arena out in 84, which includes the single Wild Boys,
which was huge.
And the video must have cost in today's money $10 million or something like that.
Yeah.
With him on that windmill kind of going into the water and stuff like that's crazy. The boys all flying around and stuff. I remember when that came out, that was huge. But so yeah, after Seven and the Ragged, I mean, you could even say after Rio, they had 3 big singles. They had Is There Something I Should Know? Then they do Seven and the Ragged, which had great songs on it. Then they had the Wild Boys single, and then they had the View to a Kill single.
Right, which was a #1 hit.
Absolutely, and huge. And they played it at Live Aid, if I'm not mistaken. And then Duran Duran was done. It was just like the light that shines twice as bright burns half as long, you know? It's just they shot up to super duper ooper stardom all over MTV, all in dance clubs, pop stations, dance stations, rock stations, all over MTV, all over if you had a music magazine, you had them on the cover 4 times between 1981 to 1984 at least. So it was kind of like they were overexposed, and then they kind of had to go away for a little while.
Yeah, in that, especially that, you know, you get into 86, 87, now we've got new bands coming out, new younger bands. Duran Duran is kind of old, even though not really, but even like MTV had, like, I don't think by that point in time any of the original VJs were there anymore. They had a new wave of those people. You know, Bon Jovi was starting to hit. I remember In Excess was huge at that time, and they just kind of got thrown away a little bit. And so the fact that they never really went away. They're still there. They're still making music, and they're still playing tracks off of this record to this day in the live shows. It just shows you how huge this was.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I think there was probably some burnout too. It's like, I know that you're on the Concorde and you're with models, and you know you're renting a chateau and you have a mountain of cocaine and you have, whatever you want. Eventually, you got to like, whoa, where's the kind of real life? Where's, you know? Yeah.
Well, you know, you get married, you start having kids, and it's like, I need to take a break or I'm going to just die.
Absolutely. And I'm sure they made tons of money and they made some brilliant music, but it's like, okay, let's take a break. You know, let's go do Power Station, and, you know, we'll do Arcadia, and we'll do these other things. And then can we get back together? Not all of us. No, just a few of us will get back together to be Duran Duran. Then yes, in the early 2000s, all 5 of them to get back together. And I think they borrowed Spandau's Ballet's opening like stage thing, because like, there are 5 Spandos. There's 5 Duran Durans. At the beginning of Spandau's reunion tour, the 5 of them would stand up at the front of the stage, just like standing still, looking out there. And then one by one, they would peel off to go to their individual instruments or their spot on the stage. Duran did the exact same thing on their reunion tour. And I really wanted to see them on that. And I tried to go to Chicago, and it didn't work out. Because I'm like, when are we ever going to see all 5 of them back together again? And plus they had, and then they did an album, was it Spaceman or something like that?
Astronaut.
There you go. Yeah. Close enough. In Russia, it was called Spaceman. Anyway. And it's like, no, this is not stuff that I listen to now, but I'm glad Duran Duran are all back together and they're moving forward. And it did sound like Duran Duran just updated. So I'm like, good for them. I'm glad. And I'm so glad that eventually I got to see them, because it was, I mean, honestly, it's a lifelong dream to see them, because I saw them on MTV when I was like 8, and I'm like, wow. And I could really identify with them. Skinny white guys. Hey, I'm a skinny white guy. You know, I could do this. You know, just give me cool hair and give me some cool clothes, and I'm Duran Duran, baby. Obviously not, but yeah, Duran Duran will always have a special place in my heart, even if I haven't bought an album there since Decade, the greatest hits that came out like when we were in high school, or maybe in college. I don't remember, but yeah, it's I'm always rooting for them. I'm always pro Duran Duran, even if they don't do the kind of music that I like anymore. Who cares? They're still doing it, and they're cool.
Yeah, and I'm glad that that when they did the reunion, I'm glad that Roger stayed on, because I mean, it pretty much is the original band minus one person now, and has been for 20-something years again.
Yeah, because Andy's had a bunch of health issues, and
he's doing all right, I think, all things considered. There was a great interview with him on one of those like early morning, British talk shows, like, Good Morning America, but Good Morning Britain or whatever. And he's sitting there, of course, with his sunglasses on. And he said something about, well, that the alarm went off early this morning. That's weird. You're a rock star. Wait, what were you doing? He's like, I didn't say I was in bed. Or no, I didn't say I was asleep or something like that. Something off the cuff. I'm like, He's a pretty cool guy.
The one I like is Roger because he just is unassuming kind of in the background.
Uh-huh.
And like when they did that kind of movie, they all kind of got into the old car that they used to, drive around in.
Yeah.
Nick and Simon and JT are like, oh, and then there was this. Oh, yes, this. And of course we do this. And he's just back there just chilling, just kind of like, let them come to me. I don't need to be the one out front, And then they had, some kind of event where it was the boys. And then it was like all the bottles of a certain era. So it was like Naomi Campbell was there and maybe Linda Evangelista, all of them of a certain time. Of course, JT's walking up to say hello to all of them because that's just kind of what he did. And Simon, kind of just had to stand there and wait for them to come. I feel like Roger, I think he was divorced at this point. He was just kind of chilling and waiting for them to come to him, which eventually they did because there's only so many of them. And, you can only get so much time with Simon or JT. So why don't you look for the cute drummer over there with the good hair, ladies. So, but it's still bizarre to me that 60% of the band is named Taylor and none of them are related. It just blows my mind.
Yeah, because every other band that's ever been, if there's people with the same last name, they're brothers, cousins, something like that. So obviously these guys, they all know each. No, there's no way you could do that again.
I gotta say, it was fun to do this one with Jackson. It's not an album I've listened to in decades, okay? But it was a gateway drug for me, right? Got me into the MTV era, got me into English bands, got me into wanting to collect tapes, got me wanting to understand who makes the music, got me a part of my generation. And no, I would not continue to be an enormous Duran Duran fan. I never denigrated them. I'm just not a dance guy. You guys know I'm a hard rock guy. I'm a classic rock guy. I'm a metal guy. I appreciate a good rhythm. I appreciate a good song. And they come in all shapes and sizes. And Duran Duran's been doing this for a very long time now. In fact, they're playing Hyde Park again this summer, July 5th. So for those of you in London, man, you should really go check them out. They've got Nile Rodgers with them full time now. And yes, I think Chic is even opening for them at BST on the 5th, which is pretty cool. They will always have a special place in my heart, Duran Duran. And I'm glad that they're still going. And if I was over there, I would absolutely go see them. And I hope if you have the opportunity, you should do so as well. It's a great debut, kind of portends bigger things to come. But then, of course, with Is There Something I Should Know, it shows a band a little bit more mature now, right? They know their way around the studio. They know what they're trying to say. They know how to build a song. They built a great one there when they got them all over MTV and helped sell the original album, the Rio album, and eventually even the Seven and the Ragged Tiger album. And that's the foundation of their career. Still playing songs off this today. And we will know, folks, did we get something right? Did we get something wrong? Did we miss the point? Did we leave out your favorite part? You got to email us and let us know. It's uglyamericanwerewolf@gmail.com. You can let us know the bands, the albums, the tours, concerts, DVDs, books, the rock properties you want to hear us talk about here on the show. We need you to download and subscribe wherever you get your shows. Doesn't matter where, those downloads are the lifeblood of growing our show. And if you really want to help us out, please go give us a 5-star review. It just means the world to us. It helps us find more rock and rollers like you. And if you send it our way, we might just read it on an episode. Thanks as always to Pantheon Podcast for making us part of the family. And thanks to our sponsor, rarevinyl.com, where you use the code UGLY. You can save 10% off one entire order. And yes, they've got a lot of great Duran Duran stuff that you're going to want to check out. That's it for this week, folks. We've got some fun stuff coming up, some fun interviews, some cool record reviews, some live concerts we just can't wait for. So you're going to have to stay tuned. And until next time, to all you rock and rollers all around the world, be cool and keep doing what you do to keep rock alive.